In this lecture, we are going to learn about what is an abstract class in TypeScript. And let's understand abstract class with a simple example. Here I have created a class called employee, and this is a normal class. There we have defined two properties, first name and last name, and we are initializing these two properties using the constructor of that class. Okay, now what I want is, let's say in our organization, we have two types of employees, permanent employee and contract employee. And both of these two types of employees should inherit from this employee class. We should not be able to create an instance of this employee class directly. So for an employee, what we want is we want to have a first name, a last name, then we want to have a method called get salary. Now, the salary of the employee will be calculated differently for a permanent employee and for a contract based employee. So here what we are going to do is we are going to declare this method get salary, but we are not going to define it. We are not going to write any logic for this get salary method. Here we will simply specify what this method is going to take as a parameter and what it is going to return. So let's say this method is not going to take any parameter, but it is going to return a numeric value. So let's specify the type as number. Now, since we are not going to specify a definition for this get salary method inside this employee class, we need to mark this method as abstract. So that we can do using this abstract keyword. So when we use this abstract keyword, that means this method, we are going to declare it here. We are going to specify the signature of this method and we are going to declare it inside this employee class, but we are not going to define it inside this employee class. This method, the logic for this method will be defined in the child class of this employee class. And here, since we are using this abstract keyword in front of this get salary method, we can only create abstract methods inside an abstract class. This method, we want to make it as abstract. So this method we are defining inside this employee class. So this employee class should also be marked as abstract. Then only inside this employee class, we can use abstract keyword. So before this class keyword, we will use this keyword abstract, which will make this employee class also abstract. And then inside this abstract class, we can create abstract methods. Now, one very important point to remember here is that when you mark a class as abstract, you cannot create an object of that class. You cannot instantiate that class. If I try to create an instance of this employee class like this, we will get an error. Okay, so let's also try to pass first name and last name. You see, we still have the error. And if I hover over this red squiggly, it will say that you cannot create an instance of an abstract class. So since this employee class is an abstract class, we cannot create an instance of this class. This is very important point to remember. All right. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a child class for this employee class. So let me create a class and let's call it permanent employee. Let's make this P in caps. And this class is going to inherit from this employee class. So here we are going to use the extends keyword and it is going to extend employee class. So now this class is a child class of this employee class. That means this first name and last name property will also be available for this permanent employee class. And it will also have this get salary method. But now what we need to do is inside this child class, we need to define a logic for this abstract method. So if I hover over this red squiggly now, you will see that it says non-abstract class permanent employee does not implement all abstract members of employee. Since this class is inheriting from this employee class, which is an abstract class, and there we have an abstract method get salary, this class must provide a definition for this abstract method. It must provide a definition for this get salary method. So inside this method, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to specify the constructor. There, we are going to specify some parameters. For example, fn, it is going to be of type string. ln, it is also going to be of type string. And inside this class, let's also create one more property. Let's call it monthly salary. It is going to be of type number. Okay. And here we are also going to take third parameter, let's say salary, which is going to be of type number. Now, in order to set the first name and last name for this permanent employee, we are going to call the constructor of its parent class, the constructor of this employee class. For that, we are going to use super keyword, and there we will pass first name and last name. Okay. Then we are also going to initialize this monthly salary. So here we will say this dot monthly salary equals salary. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, since this permanent employee class, it is inheriting from this employee class, which is an abstract class, and it has an abstract method get salary. In this class, we must provide a definition for this get salary method. Let's go ahead and let's do that. So let's create that method get salary. It is going to return a number, and here let's use the return keyword and let's calculate the salary. So what we will do is we will simply say this dot monthly salary multiplied by 12, which will give us the yearly salary and that we want to return from here. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and if I create an instance of this permanent employee class, so for that, let's create a variable emp1 equals new permanent employee. There we need to pass a value for the first name, a value for the last name, and we also need to pass a value for salary. Okay. And let's go ahead and let's call get salary method of this permanent employee. Let's save the changes. And you see, the salary of the permanent employee is logged here. In the same way, let's also create another class. Let's call this class contract employee. And this is also going to extend employee class. Okay. And here also, let's specify the constructor. This constructor is going to take the first name as its parameter, last name as its parameter, and it is also going to take salary as a parameter, which is going to be of type number. And here, let's define one more property, hourly salary. So for the contract employee, the salary is going to be in hours. And here, in order to initialize first name and last name, we are going to call the constructor of parent class using the super keyword. There we will pass the value for first name, which we are going to receive for fn parameter, the value for last name, which we are going to receive for ln parameter, and then we are also going to initialize the hourly salary, and that we will receive for the salary parameter of this constructor. Okay, and again we have this error because since this class is extending this employee class, since it is inheriting from this employee class has an abstract method, this get salary. So we need to provide a definition for this abstract method inside the child class. Let's go ahead and let's do that. Okay, and from here we are going to return this dot hourly salary multiplied by 12. So let's say the working hour is 12, or maybe let's keep it as 9. So this is the working hour each day multiplied by 365. So this will be the yearly salary. Now here we will have weekends and leaves also, but that I'm not considering here. Okay. So as you see, the definition for this get salary for this contract employee is different from the definition of the get salary for permanent employee. Okay, now let me also create an instance of this contract employee class, and then I will explain what is the actual use of an abstract class. So let's go ahead and let's create another variable emp2, and this emp2 is going to store an object of contract employee. So let's pass the value for first name, let's say Mark, last name, let's say what, and hourly salaries, let's say $10. Okay, now let me copy this console.log statement and let's paste it here, and let's call this get salary on emp2. Let's save the changes. So this will be the yearly salary for contract employee. So using an abstract class, we can define a class which can contain some properties which will be common for all its child classes. For example, whether an employee is permanent employee or contract employee, both type of employees are going to have a first name and last name. Then we can define some properties and methods which can differ for the child classes. For example, this get salary method, the definition for this get salary method can be different for different type of employees. For example, in this case, the definition of this get salary is different for permanent employee and it is different for contract employee. So in the abstract class, we do not provide a definition of that method. We simply mark it as abstract and we define the signature of that method. Here, this get salary method is not taking any parameter and it is going to return a numeric value. So we are simply specifying the structure of the method, the signature of the method. But whenever a class is going to inherit from this employee class, from this abstract class, that child class will have to provide a definition for this get salary method, this abstract method. So we can say that an abstract class is used to define the common behavior for derived classes to extend. And unlike a regular class, an abstract class cannot be instantiated directly. So basically, in the abstract class, you can keep some common properties. For example, this first name and last name will be common for permanent employees and also the contract employees. And then you can also create some abstract methods whose definition might change for different child classes. So for example, this get salary, it will be different. Its definition will be different for permanent employee and contract employee. And when we want to instantiate an employee, we will have to instantiate it either the permanent employee or the contract employee. We cannot directly instantiate this employee class. So this is another feature of this abstract class. This is all from this lecture. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.